the next thing we're going to do is talk about this success strategy, this new one, pretend the other knows. And what I'd like to do is speak about this and then give you some practice, because I think, as with all ideas, listening about it is one thing and practicing it is something different. So here's the idea, which is that you, when you are with others, all others, friends, coworkers, family, your children, your parents, that you pretend that they know. And what I looked up pretend, and pretend is defined as act as if something were true, to make believe that something is the case by using your imagination. So what I'm recommending is that you use your imagination and you act as if that what the other person is telling you is true. You let yourself be taken for a while, taken for a ride by their speaking. And you really do believe, for a while, you pretend that what they're saying is true. It's, if they say they see something, you agree that they see it. You pretend that they're accurate. If they think something, you don't question it. You believe that they think it. If they tell you they feel something, you assume they felt it. If they heard it, you assume they heard it. You don't argue with people, in other words. You believe in them, and you believe that they know what they believe in. You pretend that they know what is best for them. But you even pretend that they know what is best for others. And you pretend that they know what they want, and what is logical, and what is right, and what is ethical, and what is good. You pretend that the other knows the truth from their point of view. So that's the idea. Let me give you some wild examples. For example, somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm Napoleon, King of France." Now, I realize that the standard rebuttal or the standard response would be to say, "You're crazy. You're not Napoleon, King of France." But what I learned from very expert psychologists is you'll get nowhere with a person like that. So instead, you could respond pretending the other knows and say then something like, "Wow, thanks for telling me. You know, you must be pretty old. Tell me more." And so for a while, not forever I'm saying, but for a while, you believe the other person. You pretend they know. Somebody comes up to you and says, "You know, this whole global warming thing and this carbon dioxide in the air and Earth's warming and all this greenhouse effect, it's just a hoax." Now, I know some of you are dyed-in-the-wool environmentalists on this call. I know you. I know you devote your life to that. But what if somebody comes up to you and says that? You tend to argue. But I claim it would work better if you pretended that they knew. Somebody else comes up to you and say, "You know, the world is ending in 2012. I know it because the Mayan calendar shows it." Well, instead of arguing with them and saying, no, they just ran out of room. I saw it in a cartoon the other day. These Mayans were carving this thing, and they got done, and it was a circle, and the one guy said to the other, "Boy, I hope people don't get freaked out in 2012. I just ran out of room on the circle." No, not arguing, not kidding, but just saying, "Wow, no kidding. The world's going to end in 2012. Tell me more." Somebody comes up to you and says, "You know, nuclear power is completely safe." Maybe you don't believe it. Why argue? For a while, pretend they know. Okay, so that's the idea. Now, of course, there are some cautions here. If somebody comes up to you and says, "Look, your pants are on fire," well, it doesn't mean you got to go jump in the lake. Or start patting your butt and seeing that your pants are on fire. I'm not saying act on what the others say. Another less goofy example is, but very accurate, is somebody comes up to you and say, "Look, this investment, putting your money here, will pay off 10 to 1 if you put it in today." Again, I'm recommending you pretend they know. And you say, "Wow, that's amazing. 10 to 1? How long? How long will it take? And they say, well, 1 week. You mean if I put in $100, I'll get $1,000 back in 1 week? And they say, yes. You say, wow, thanks for telling me. I bet you're going to put a lot of money in there. I'm sure glad you're telling me. Now, I'm not recommending that you put in your money. You might even say something like, I really do appreciate knowing this, but I have committed to my financial investment partner never to invest until I've slept on it, so I know I'm going to lose this opportunity. Again, the caution is don't act on it all, but for a while pretend that the other knows the truth. Now, the purpose, why? This is a kind of an outlandish idea. The purpose is because it's so honoring of the other. And it is so honoring that if you start to treat people like this, they will like you, they will listen to you, they will be grateful, because it's so honoring to assume that they know. Plus, it will really increase what you hear from others. Now, confidentiality, as I mentioned earlier, helps you learn more and be more intimate and get more from others. This will too, because people get tired of talking into skepticism. People get tired of talking into argument. That's kind of jargon how I say that. People get tired of talking and expecting you to argue with them, so they quit talking. Also, the purpose of this is it really increases your ability to be non-attached, to move beyond your own positionality, your own points of view, your own ego. It really increases your creativity when you do this. So the idea is to suspend judgment, give yourself a timeline, maybe sleep on it, maybe 24 hours, but at least sleeping on it. And let yourself know that no matter what you hear, you're going to try it on. You're really coming from a whole listening strategy called, what if that were true? So you're developing a new habit that you assume when you first hear another that they're right. Instead of our old habit, or at least the habit that I've had for most of my life, which is assuming that I'm right. Because what I want to do is not assume that I'm right. I want to remember that I interpret everything. All my opinions are based on observations, which aren't reality. They're just my observation. So the recommendation here is to make the other person right whenever you can authentically do so, and really give ideas and points of view and the speaking of others a fair trial. Just like, let me give you a couple of quick analogies, and then I'm going to wrap up what I have to say and give you a chance to practice. The first analogy is when you try on clothes. Let's say you go into a store with a friend. I just did this with my daughter. She helped me shop. And your friend comes over and says, hey, I think you'd look great in this. And you look at it, and your first reaction is, ooh, I think I'd look terrible. Okay, now, at that point, pretend the other knows. And give it a fair try. Go in the dressing room, try on those clothes with an attitude of, these might look good. I'm not going to assume that I was right. I'm actually going to assume that he or she was right when I heard that they would look good on me. So then you come out of the dressing room with an open mind, and you look into the mirror, and you still pretend that they're right. Pretend they know. Wow. Never looked like this before, but I look good. You say, well, what if you don't think you look good? Well, you're just pretending. You're acting. You're making believe by using your imagination. Now, doesn't mean you walk out and buy the clothes. You're just trying them on. One more analogy. Imagine that you're standing with somebody or across from somebody that you really trust and love and knows color. Like my wife, she's an artist. She knows color. Sometimes when she looks at something, she says it's blue. I think it's green. She says it's anyway, but she knows color. So I'm standing across from her. I know she knows color. And then a ball comes down right between us. So now I can't see her head anymore because all I see is the ball. All she sees is the ball. And she says that ball is black. I say, oh, wait a minute now, Tricia. We're not talking colors anymore. We're talking black and white because this ball is for sure white. And she says, no, Dave, it's black. Now, I'm going to want to try to argue with her. But what I'm recommending instead is to pretend that she knows. So now if I pretend that she's right, I'm thinking, wow, so you really see a black ball? She says, yeah. I say, wow, that's amazing, stunning. Tell me more. Because it looks completely white to me, but I trust you, I believe you. The ball's black. How could this be? Now, of course, the way it is because it's half black and half white, and I only see the white side, and she only sees the black side. But if we argue, we'll never figure that out. If we pretend the other's right, pretty soon it's a simple problem to solve. This idea is just an extension of what you read about today from the Choose Your Conversation Success Strategy. It's an extension, really, of the strategy Move Toward Love, non-antagonism, no argument. It's kind of an extension of what I've talked about with listening fully, where you affirm whatever you can, and you postpone your response. In other words, your assessment, your judgment. You listen without your answer running. You listen trusting. And this is really useful if you're getting hooked, if you're defensive, if you're upset, if you feel righteous. This is really useful in a fight, a conflict, an argument, a debate. So that's what I think, but now I want you to practice. So this is an exercise. It's a writing exercise. If you're listening to the recording, be sure you write. What I'd like you to do right now is write down in your life where you could apply this. I want you to start writing right now some specific people who you could apply this to. These would be people, for example, who you often argue with, or who you sometimes make wrong, or who you instantly make wrong. These could be politicians, national figures. These could be dear friends. Who could you apply this strategy to? And in addition to that, and I'll be quiet so you can think, but you can start writing now the people you could apply this strategy to. Your enemies, because some of you know, you've got these people that no matter what they say, you're going to argue with them. But then also write down categories or topics that would be difficult for you to apply this to. For example, some of you in politics, it would be hard to make a Democrat right, or for some of you it would be hard to make a Republican right, a Republican. But for you, I want you to make your list. I'll be quiet for a half a minute while you think and make your list of where you could apply this. Begin. All right. So even though I'm recommending to all of you not to give advice very often, unless people beg for it, but rather when you do get somebody to give you advice, when somebody comes up and offers it unsolicited, one way you could respond is to pretend that they know. Pretend that that's the best advice in the world. Doesn't mean, again, that you've got to act on it, but you can interact with them. You can act as if. You can make believe. You can use your imagination for a while. And the reason to do it again is because it's so honoring of the other. It helps you increase your creativity. As Angela says, it kind of moves you past that trigger point. Because when you get triggered, that's attachment. It's really your ego getting triggered. It helps you move beyond that. And it will really increase what you hear. Because as soon as you object to somebody's advice, you'll never get advice again. Okay, now I'd like to try it, and I want you to respond to me. So I want you to pretend that I know, just for a few minutes. So I want you to pretend that whatever I say is right. And this is a really good thing to do, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Can't wait.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly. And whatever I'm about to tell you is going to be the right thing. It's going to be true.
Sure is.
Of course.
Really? I'm ready.
Wow, tell us more.
There you go. Yes, I'm glad you said that because I want to tell you more. Because I believe that you are all very practiced at being right, but you defend your right to your own peril. That you actually would be way happier if you wouldn't defend and be so righteous, right?
Right on. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't.
Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, you got it. So now, for example, what I'm looking at right now, I'm looking out my window, and I see this beautiful view right out my window, and the sky. Let's see, what color is the sky? It's not blue. Oh, the sky is checkerboard. The sky that I'm looking at right now is actually black and white checkerboard.
Wow, I see that.
That's interesting. Oh, that's cool. Good job.
Isn't that amazing? I know.
Really
No.
amazing.
And now, if you didn't, matter of fact, for those of you on the screen, you can see it. I mean, you're seeing what I'm seeing.
Oh.
And
Wow.
that's what I'm seeing. Now when I look out my window, the sky is actually kind of a light gray. But when I look out my window, I also see my computer screen, because as you can see, my computer screen's right in front of my window, and the sky is black and white check. So I was right?
Right. Yeah.
And I wasn't even being tricky, was I?
You weren't.
That's
Oh, that's right.
Right. So, obviously, the sky that I see is black and white checks. Isn't that fun?
You live in an interesting world.
Now, of course, I know that none of you will tell anybody that my sky is black and white checks because we're all into confidentiality, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And now you will make mistakes too, won't you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All the time.
Of course you will, because I just said you will, and you agree with everything I'm saying right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Very good.